guys, PIEGUYRULZ here, and welcome to the reboot, rehash, revival, rehash, reboot, revival, some order those three words, cast. I am joined by my co-host, MonstersReview.
What's up?
And our special guest for this week, Kuro the Artist.
Hey guys, happy to be on this recast.
And we've got a good show for you guys tonight. We are going to be talking about Ben's 11th Alien in the original Ben 10 and then the Ben 10 reboot. That's at the end of the show. We also are skipping the news segment this week and instead are talking about the first episode of Disenchantment, because all three of us saw it. We've also got some shows that we watched, just miscellaneous to talk about, and we have more than one question of the week to get to. But before we do all of that, how are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty well. How about you, Monsters?
I'm doing pretty great myself, too. I'm feeling pretty nostalgic about last week's podcast.
Why?
Because none of us could guess that you were talking about Food Fight, the oh-so-great movie featuring the fish from Starkist and a dog in a supermarket.
Yeah,
I jumped to Sausage Party. I thought you were talking about that.
Well, I didn't do the best job of explaining it, but yes, just so you guys out in the audience know, we know what Food Fight is. I mean, none of us have seen it, but I don't think anyone's really seen Food Fight. I think it's just clips on the internet, John
Right.
Tron, Nostalgia Critic, all that stuff. But yeah, we know what that is. So that's a bit of old business from last week. Also, other business, just gonna do a quick plug for the Discord. We launched a Discord last week for the recast. We got over 100 people in it, so that's pretty good, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never made a Discord before. Kuro's in it. You joined?
Yeah, it's pretty good so far. Had some good discussions in there.
Sweet, sweet. Yeah, if you want to be a part of the recast, basically you can ask us questions there for our question of the week. You can talk about the episodes that we talk about on the podcast. When we announce them, we'd like you to watch along if you want to, and then you can comment, and basically we're going to read out a few of the comments tonight when we get to that. And if you have any news suggestions, if you have any feedback, if you just want to talk about the podcast, or we have a very active general channel if you just want to hang out with anyone. So, yeah. And lastly, the recast has a hashtag for Twitter. Because someone wanted it, we made one called The Recast. It should be up on the screen now if Monsters does his job.
I will.
Okay.
I'll tweet it out when this video's up.
Awesome. All right. So that's the beginning. So we're going to jump right into things that we watched / videos that we're working on or worked on. I'll start us off here. So I've been actually watching a decent amount of like a few different things, but mainly I've been watching Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends because I don't know. I'm watching mid-2000s Cartoon Network. That's what my life is. Yeah. So I have a big problem with Blue. And I have for a while. I just find him really annoying. And I think I've kind of figured out, like, pinpointed what Blue reminds me of. He reminds me of Cartman.
I can see that now.
Makes a ton of sense, yeah.
Like, but he's not in South Park. And it's funny, because a lot of the time, like, Blue and Mac's interactions come off as Cartman and Kyle, which is, like, the whole basis of the show is supposed to be that Mac loves his imaginary friend so much that he shows up every day to Foster's to see him. But you get the impression in a lot of episodes, like, Mac and Blue have nothing nice to say to each other.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable. But the best parts of the show, like, everything else about the show is great. The character designs are beautiful. The episode names are on point. Like, the stories even. They're 22 minutes. It's a 22-minute comedy cartoon, which is something that, like, I haven't seen in ages. Like,
right.
Could you guys name another one right now?
I really can't.
Some adult
It
ones,
doesn't
but
feel like 22 minutes, though. Like, the pacing is always very good in Foster's. So,
Yes.
Yeah, it always keeps your attention.
Yeah, like, there's a great one, an early episode called Busted. If you want, like, a dozen boob jokes that are really, like, subtle and sold to you with a straight face, that episode's for you. But the way the episode works is that the first half of it is structured where Blue is, like, defying all of Harriman's weird rules. And then in the second half of the episode, when he breaks Madame Foster's bust, he... the episode makes the jokes.
This one.
But like he uses all of the things like the toilet paper and the toothpaste and just all of Harriman's rules from earlier in the episode to bring it back. So it's like good kind of 2-act storytelling in there. But really the best episodes of the show are the ones that aren't about Blue. Like when Frankie or Wilt or someone else is the protagonist, those are the best ones.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen Good Will Hunting?
I have not seen Good Will Hunting, no, but I've seen Good Will Hunting. Yes.
Same.
I tweeted out a beautiful screenshot from it, which is a reference to Space Jam, foreshadowing, and a reference to Reanimated / Out of Jimmy's Head. Yeah. So it's a threefer there. But no, that two-parter that's fantastic.
Yeah, I love it.
I enjoyed Destination Imagination quite a bit as well. But yeah, the main thing, the other thing is like, there's an episode in season 1, it's not far in, called Worldwide Wabbit. Do you guys remember this one?
I feel like I would if I heard it.
Same.
Mr. Harriman becomes a meme. So basically,
oh wait, yes, I do.
Yes, yeah. Except they're spoofing like the Star Wars kid viral video, but because of the way they do it, nothing about the episode is dated. Like the way they represent computers looks like Windows 95, but that's dated even to when the episode came out. It's so like, but the way Harriman, like, okay, so it's something stupid that gets just randomly uploaded to the internet, gets a ton of views, then comes the merch. Then when Harriman finds out about it, he ruins it by doing a hip hop version, which is like, there's like, do you guys remember the Numa Numa guy? I'm dating myself here.
Yeah.
There was like 4 sequels because you can't just have a viral video. You got to capitalize on that. But yeah, I found it to be like the least dated internet episode that I've ever seen. But yeah, so like with Bloom, to get back to that, I wanted to think that he was like a better character in the earlier seasons, and in the 3-part movie House of Blues, he's like a different character. He's like Bugs Bunny, and the rest of the show he's more like Daffy Duck.
Mm-hmm.
He is like less annoying in the basically, like, I don't know, he gets less focus, I guess, in the earlier seasons. But he's still annoying. In the very next episode after that one, he's telling Coco she can't come on the trip because she doesn't have any money, even though Blue just stole money from all the other imaginary friends and Mac. I don't know. His antics can be funny, but it's just like his overpowering presence in some episodes of the show really, really turned me off to it. But there's still some really great episodes, and like pretty much everything else about the show is fantastic. And then one last thing. Do you guys know who the voice actor for Eduardo is?
Isn't it Tom Kenny?
It's Tom Kenny!
It is? Wow.
Yes!
I didn't know that.
It's so crazy because, like, I mean, Tom Kenny, I believe it, like, because Tom Kenny is a man of many voices, but usually it's like some variation on his narrator voice, or his kind of high-pitched voice, or his Ice King type voice. I would never have guessed it for Eduardo.
Right.
Yeah, I remember, I forgot how I found out. I think I was just like looking up voice actors and stuff, and like I came across that, and then like I played a clip and I still like couldn't believe it. That's like probably his most distinct voice.
Absolutely. Like I knew he voiced someone because like one of the incidental friends was voiced by Tom Kenny in a way you could tell it's Tom Kenny. So I'm like who is, like, he's got to be someone on the show. But yeah, that's nuts. And I mean, there's lots of other like Powerpuff alumni on that show.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but what have you guys been watching? You want to go next, Carl?
I spend most of my time drawing or editing and stuff, so I don't get to watch a lot of things. I mostly listen to podcasts. Ooh. So when I watch a show, it takes me a very long time. A friend suggested me to try watching Transformers Prime, and it's on Netflix. Well, it was. I saw that it was getting taken off of Netflix August 16th. I haven't checked to see if it has or not yet. But I watched the first half of the season, and then I didn't make it. But from what I saw, I really enjoyed it.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's like, it's one of those shows like I originally wouldn't have gotten into, because it's like, it's like, it seems I guess like intimidating in a sense that like you'd feel like you need to be a part of the lore to watch and understand. Like you wouldn't watch like a Star Wars show if you haven't seen any of the movies. And that's how I felt about the Transformers shows. But I just gave it a try, and it really does a good job like reintroducing the world. The characters are very fleshed out and relatable. And it was super surprising, honestly. So if it didn't end up getting removed, or I find a new way to watch it, I'll probably try to continue it.
So that's Prime.
Yeah, Transformers Prime.
See, that's the problem with like shows that have like 8 million versions. Like I have no idea which one you're talking about. Like that's not Transformers animated.
No, that's the cartoon one. No, Transformers Prime is CG.
Oh, okay. Well, that sets it apart.
I used to watch one called Cybertron.
I heard about that one. I don't remember if that one was negatively received or not, but I know a lot of the Transformers, like the majority of them, aren't like too good. I guess I don't know. I'm still like very very new to the fandom.
Right.
Did either? So have you seen much Transformers Monsters?
No, not really. Like I said, I mean, I'm not too familiar with the lore as well. I did used to watch Cybertron. It was on at like 6 in the morning on Cartoon Network during weekdays. And I remember liking some of it. I don't know how it's received now. And I did watch a little bit of Transformers Animated and remember not liking that one.
I remember watching animated and I did like it, but it was also like in the morning before school and I was super young, so I don't remember a lot of it. I remember like distinct parts of it, but I don't know. I liked it.
Wasn't Weird Al on that one?
Weird Al? Maybe. I know he does random voice acting roles like here and
Yes,
there.
Yeah.
yes. He does, yes. I surprisingly, he hasn't been on SpongeBob, but he's been on a lot of shows as like a one-off voice. And the main character, too.
Oh yeah, isn't he Milo Murphy?
Correct. Yes. So then, Monsters, I know you wanted to go last. The other thing I'll just say is I've been watching a lot of Ben 10. Well, not a lot of Ben 10. No, actually, I've been watching a decent amount of Ben 10. I watched all of season 1 of the original Ben 10. Like it came back to me because I was a huge Ben 10 fan. Like as a kid, I was kind of like ashamed of myself that I couldn't name the aliens like a week or two ago.
Oh man.
I think I could probably name all 10 of them. But yeah, I've been watching, so I watched like all of season 1 of the original Ben 10, and I watched some miscellaneous episodes from the names of the other alien shows, Ben 10.
Like all 4 of them or the reboot?
Alien Force, Alien...
Yeah.
Alien Force, Ultimate Alien, and Omniverse. I watched a few random episodes for a video that you'll probably see in a few days, which might feature someone else from this podcast. Maybe. I don't know.
It could.
Yep. All right, Monsters, you go.
Okay, so in comparison to the past 2 episodes, I actually watched quite a bit in the past week. So first off, I mentioned in my top 10 cartoons of all time part 2 video that my friends and I get together every year and we try to watch through all of Avatar: The Last Airbender. So that happened recently and we got through book 1. And like I said, I've watched Avatar several times over. It's still just as good as I remember it being when I was younger. And to all of you that don't like The Great Divide, we had such a fun time watching that episode. It's always such a fun time watching that episode. I don't see why it gets so much crap.
You could say in the fandom it causes a Great Divide.
Great Divide, yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, Avatar is great. It never gets old. The second thing that I watched was the first Pokemon movie, otherwise known as Pokemon the First Movie Mewtwo Strikes Back. Such a long title that's totally unnecessary. And it's not as good as I remember it being when I was younger. That happens a lot.
Did you cry?
I did not cry. If I'm being entirely honest, some of it was really boring. Pretty much the only parts that actually had me engaged was when Mewtwo was on screen. Like the opening, 15 minutes where they reveal Mewtwo and he's in this scientific chamber and he's like, are you saying that I'm just an experiment? Like that part was super cool. He was such a cool villain in that part. And then there's all this exposition, Ash, nobody cares, blah, blah, blah. And then,
Opening theme song, fight with Danphy.
Yeah. That
Pokemon?
really long title sequence.
Cannonbolt.
And then pretty much I was bored until the part where the clones show up, and then that's when it starts getting interesting for me again, up through the end of the movie. It's not a very long movie, but yeah, like I said, I gave it a 3 out of 5. It's still a decent movie, but it's not as great as I remember. I used to idolize it when I was younger. I used to watch it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it has the benefit of having a lot of Pokemon in it. Like,
right.
I think as a kid, that's like some of the appeal is just that there's a lot of Pokemon. They incorrectly name, I think, Pidgeotto.
Yeah.
Did you catch the Vikings reference?
I didn't.
Yeah, there's a reference to some sports team called the Vikings. Brock mentions it.
Probably the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, or James, one of them on the boat. Yeah. I don't know. It's really awkward in the dub. Also, did you know that the Japanese version, there's actually a little bit cut from the American version at the beginning where, I can't remember the full story, but it's something like hinted that Mewtwo was cloned from like the scientist's like deceased daughter or something. Like, there's some dark twist in there that like
is that like how they explain the human element of Mewtwo?
I think something like that. And then they were like, Americans can't handle this.
The ending was really weird too. It was just Mewtwo and all those clone Pokemon flying off, just like, it's time to go somewhere else.
Mewtwo died on the way back to his home planet.
So yeah, that's my thoughts on that movie. And lastly, I mentioned very briefly last week that Disenchantment was coming out, and I was going to watch some of that. And I watched the first episode, so did Kuro and Pieguy. So instead of doing news this week, we're going to talk about that. So what did you guys think?
I didn't want to watch this. I'll be honest. Like, I wanted to do this for the podcast because I wanted to talk about the show, but I didn't want to watch it. I didn't want to do a video on it. Because my initial impression, and my impression still is just like, this is not. I don't know. I have a biased perspective on this. I don't want another grading series. I don't need more of his comedy. I don't need more of his storytelling. I've seen 30 years of it on 2 shows, 2 long-running shows. Like, I'm coming into this heavy. I'm sorry, guys. But just that, like, I've he's a funny guy, and I know he's not involved in all 30 years of The Simpsons heavily, but like the same jokes that have been made even after he left The Simpsons or stopped working heavily on it are still based off of his initial humor and his style, and it's just there's been so much of it that it's just completely oversaturated. And Groening is a wonderfully talented man, but he's not like Gendy, who can switch on a dime and like do one thing and then another thing and another thing. All of his shows, everything, his sense of comedy, his sense of everything is very much what it is and doesn't really shift. That's my opinion. Someone else talk.
I agree on the sense that I didn't really want to watch it. When you told me that you were gonna review it for the podcast, I was like, all right, I'll watch it. And as I was watching it, it was like I was entertained as I was watching it, but it's not like I was enjoying it. It was like I was able to follow. And then I like paused it to go get a snack or something, and then like as it was paused, I was like, I don't want to continue it. So I like waited 2 hours and then came back to it and finished it. And again, like I was watching it and I was entertained and I got it and everything and I finished the episode, but it's like I don't know, it felt very empty. Like I read the premise on it and it's supposed to be about like the main 3 characters, but it didn't feel like that. Once the demon character voiced by Eric Andre showed up, I was like, oh, this is going to be like the big like twist. Now it's going to be all about magic, and then he's just there. He doesn't do anything. I feel like just because it's a match graining show, I don't know how to pronounce it. They gave it like that Simpsons art style. I feel like this could have.
They've got the Oberbite.
Yeah. This could have benefited from him trying to go in a different direction. It could have separated from his series more, and it's like this character right here,
Alpha,
like looks. Yeah, he looks too much like Bart. Like the red shirt, the spiky hair, the short stature. It's almost like they want it to look more Simpsons-y to kind of like attract it, as if they're not confident enough to sell the show on its own. And you can kind of tell that as you're watching the episode, because it doesn't really have much to offer.
Yeah, I mean, like, the guy that he brought in to Futurama to try to give Futurama kind of a new spin, David X. Cohen, is also working on this show. Like, the guy he brought in to spice that show up, it's the same guy. You can list off a number of different things. Like, comedy-wise, it's The Simpsons. Story-wise, like, everything else, it's Pastorama with, like, a lot of the same voice actors, a lot of the same, like, casual violence, casual nudity we don't get to see, dim-witted protagonist that has a crush on the feisty female protagonist. Like, what do you think, Monsters?
So, bit of a hot take here. I understand that it's a lot like other Matt Groening cartoons. I totally accept that, and I think that this fits pretty well into the literal definition of rehash. Because it really does rehash a lot of things, because Lucy, the devil character voiced by Eric Andre, is almost textbook similar to Bender from Futurama, and obviously pretty much same art style, same humor. They borrow so many things, voice actors, but I still found myself to be entertained by it. in its own right. I saw a bunch of people on Twitter saying that like the first few episodes are really average, but it gets better as it goes on. I haven't seen later episodes. I've only seen the first one so far, but I was still pleasantly entertained with the first episode. One nitpick is they have these establishing shots of the giant kingdom where the Princess Bean lives, and I don't like the shading on it. It's like, it's CG, but it's also like, it has like, it's lined, so I don't think that really blends very well. I prefer the CGI shading that they used for the exterior shots of Planet Express and Futurama, but that's my only nitpick. I thought that a lot of it was funny. I even saw a thread on Twitter too of a bunch of Easter eggs to Futurama, and I thought that those were pretty funny.
I do want to say, I mean, along your point, that like myself, and I'm sure you guys as well, we all acknowledge we are reviewing and judging the pilot, or the pilot as we've seen it. There might be a rougher pilot out there, but we're judging the first episode. So I am 100% aware that everything I say about this could only be true for this episode, and any speaking about the series as a whole is just a misnomer, and I'm talking about this episode, and it is guesswork based upon it. I just want to make that clear, that, and I also do want to make it clear that, yeah, I have a bias, I have a perspective, I have an opinion, and it's like, I tried not to let it color myself watching this, but it still kind of did, because I don't know.
I can agree that, like, we're only talking about the first episode and it shouldn't reflect on the series, but I feel like lately in the past few years with the whole binging culture, for lack of a better terms, it's kind of given like writers and producers the excuse that, oh, well, people are always going to check out the first few episodes, so they don't have to try to hook you on the first episode. Like, I'm always hearing people saying when I'm trying to get into new shows, oh, it's slow at first, but then it picks up. And it's like, I feel, maybe it's just my opinion, but I feel like the first episode should hook you right off of the first episode. It should represent the entire series. Well, maybe not plotline wise, but introduce you to the world and the characters and hook you to make you want to watch the rest. And I feel like we're getting to the point where TV shows expect you to watch the first couple of episodes in order to understand and enjoy their show, allowing them to be lazier with the first episode or so, I guess.
Well, it's funny because, like, Futurama probably has one of the best pilots of all time.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Absolutely.
It's so good that they keep going back to it. There's scenes from that pilot. If I have to hear Fry say "icy wiener" one more time, no, but like here's the thing. Matt Groening is, and I don't want to say him because it's him and the other people that worked on the show, but it's just like his reputation. It's the thing that's selling this series, honestly. The reason why anyone's checking it out, for the most part, is on that name, on that art style. You know it, the overbite. It's like signature art style. So I think it's fair to say, if that can be used as like a draw, it can be used as a detraction as well. If people can say, I only watched it because I like Matt Groening's style, I like X, Y, and Z show that he make, I think it's fair for me to say, I don't want to watch it. I don't think it looks good, based upon the same reasons.
I could see that. Yeah. In terms of characters, I thought that actually the protagonist was super uninteresting. Same thing with Lucy the demon. Maybe they do expand upon those, like we said earlier. This is only the pilot, but I thought that Elfo was pretty funny, coming from that happy, positive place, and then just kind of being super naive. And then he goes to the house that belongs to those farmers, and he's like, wow, this food's really good. And the farmers are just like, no, stop. Like, that was the only part that I actually kind of laughed at. But I still enjoyed the rest of it.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't say it was bad. I would just say, like, it's more of just effortless. Like, I do feel like it does rely heavily on the fact that, like, it's a Matt Groening kind of show, and they really try to sell it on that. And I don't know, I guess I feel like if you're trying to sell something on reputation alone, like, oh, check out this show, he made this show and this show, The Simpsons and whatnot, remember that was awesome, so now watch this. And I feel like it's kind of like banking on the success of like a previous project, and it's not a wise move to try to sell your entire thing based on your previous work.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. Here's the just kind of awful thing, is just that, like, I'm cynical about being cynical. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but like the other aspect of this, outside of it being like a Groening venture, and I'm sure I'm probably saying his name wrong. I'm very sorry, but it's Shrek. Not in terms of like it's copying Shrek, but it's that same like fractured fairy tale. Like, oh, we don't want to live in a world where everything is good and positive like a fairy tale. Oh, we don't want the prince to save me. Yada yada yada. Like that sort of like rejecting of classical fairy tales, rejecting of those classical notions. I've seen it so many times and in so many ways. Literally, Shadow Streak asked, he wanted me to watch his least favorite episode of the Powerpuff Girls reboot, and I watched it today, and it was Once Upon a Time in Townsville with a princess who wanted to be saved, and the Powerpuff Girls were like, no, be a tough princess, and it's like, Wreck-It Ralph, that's all the jokes about that. Like, it's just, I don't know, I've kind of filled to the brim with that. I'm okay with, like, seeing something that's genuine and sweet for once. I know I'm coming to the wrong show, but it's just kind of like, the whole idea is the show is named Disenchanted. I feel disenchanted with this show. Like, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm probably too passionate about this.
Oh, no, I mean, that's the whole point of this podcast, so.
Right.
It's the Passion Cast. Oh,
yes.
Not like that, but... I don't know. I mean, and yes, to be fair, getting into the nitty-gritty of it, I didn't hate it. Like, I didn't really laugh at it, but I wasn't like, this is very unfunny. It was just more like, oh, there's a funny gag on a sign. They've seen that. Oh, okay, well, the demon hangs out with her. Okay. Like, I don't know. It's not the worst place to be in terms of a pilot, but here's the thing. This episode ends on a cliffhanger, literally. I don't want to see any more. It ends on a cliffhanger. I'm good just never seeing the show again. And that's not how it should be on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like it tries to use that to like hook you to make you want to watch the next episode, but I don't connect with any of these characters enough to want to. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not the target audience, but then that makes me question like who is. So
I'll fully admit I'm not the target audience.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the target audience is just whoever's still watching The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Well, another way to look at it too is maybe you weren't satisfied by the pilot, so maybe you want to turn back to the other episodes following that because you expect more and you want to see more out of these characters.
I don't think the episode did enough to make me expect more.
I think that, yeah.
I think like in plot wise, like everything we said before, but I think at least like in tone and structure, this episode did do a good job in a sense that I feel like I know what I'm going to get into when I watch the show, and I don't want to get into it.
I agree. I feel like, here's the thing, I feel like after watching this, I don't get a sense of what the show is. I get a sense of the world, certainly. The world building is great. Like, I get a sense that it's a big amalgamation of a bunch of different fantasy tropes and fantasy lands and magical creatures and demons. Anything goes. I get that. That's good. The background design is fantastic on everything, right? I don't get a sense of what is this show? Are the characters wandering from place to place? Are the characters going to go find a city of adventure? Are the characters doing what? Now, to be fair, Futurama takes the second episode to kind of settle into what the show is as well. That's the one where they introduce like the extended cast and they go on their first delivery. But still, like, I don't know. I just don't feel like what is this show? And from a pilot, I should know, right? Like, I should be like, oh, okay, well, the characters are going to wander around searching for what they're looking for I don't know, searching for a wizard that can solve their problems. Like, do you guys feel like you get a sense of what exactly the show is?
No. I get a sense of the kind of jokes it's going to tell, and I get a sense of how these characters are going to act, but I don't get a sense of what's going to happen or why we as the audience should care.
I totally agree with what you said earlier, Pieguy. The world building, great. I totally understand, or at least have an idea of what it's going to be, but I don't think it did enough to generate curiosity in the story.
And I'm sure some people right now are like, well, guys, it's a Netflix show, you gotta binge it. Kind of like what, the opposite of what Kuro was saying earlier. But I agree with him in just that, like, I gave the show not even 22 minutes of my time. I gave the show 35 minutes of my time, which is how long the episode is, which I felt it. Every show on Netflix that's 35 minutes long, stop it. Just stop it. Shave off. I swear to you, you can shave off at least 5 of those minutes. Always. There's a reason why the format has been the way it is, and it's not just ads. Sorry, but yeah, no, I feel like I've given the show enough of my time that if it didn't sell me on this, honestly, I will probably wait until the next season or the next parts or however they're naming these episodes, because it's like episode 1, part 1 or something. I will wait until then, and if that gets good reviews, maybe I'll actually like binge the series. But yeah, no, I don't. I don't know. Maybe this show will show up on the recast. Maybe we'll do an episode of Futurama.
Yeah.
But you liked it, Monsters.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't love it. I wouldn't say that, because like I said, I mean, I watched it. I think it was on Friday, the day it dropped, but I still haven't watched the second episode, and it's been almost a week, and I've had time to watch it. I haven't been entirely interested. I see myself doing it probably within the next month, watching the rest of the episodes. I think there's 9 more in what they're calling part 1, but I liked it. I felt fulfilled. I didn't feel like my 35 minutes were wasted.
The intro sequence. Am I the only one who thought it was really lame?
I don't even remember.
In the bar?
No, the title, the theme song, whatever you want to call it. And again, the comparisons, they write themselves, but it's just like compared to The Simpsons, and it's kind of like sprawling theme over Springfield, Futurama's crazy intro sequence, this one where it's just a bunch of like silhouette stills, I think. Really a slow, and it goes on for a while, and that's kind of, it's the Netflix bloat. It's what I'm talking about, that you could shave off that 5 minutes, and that like, just because you can do like 3 minutes of titles of intro doesn't mean you should, doesn't mean that makes your show any better, it just makes it longer.
I haven't seen it, but I heard Daredevil does the same thing, and that's also a Netflix show, where like the intro is just like
I skip it
a
every
minute
time.
long of like, oh, you've seen it?
Oh, yeah, Daredevil's a great show, but like the intro it looks nice the first time I see it. It's not the intro I want to see 13 more times or whatever. Yeah. All right, well, there's your disenfranchised discussion of Disenchant. But yeah, no, I hope you do check out more of it, Monsters, because I would like to hear a little bit more about it on the recast in the coming weeks. I don't want to see it though.
Yeah, make him watch it.
All right, moving right along here. Our next thing is questions. So, like I said, we got a decent amount of questions, so we're actually going to answer 2 of them this week. So before I ask this question, do either of you guys know anything about THQ?
I know they are a game developer company, and I know they are reviving some of their old games, but I don't really know beyond that.
All right, well, you know the question then.
Oh.
So, Local Vinny from our Discord server asks, what do you guys think of THQ Nordic remaking old Nick games like Battle for Bikini Bottom? Now, to preface this, they're not, as far as we know, they're not doing this. We just know that THQ Nordic released a thing that, like, Activision had a license with Nickelodeon, that expired, THQ Nordic got it back, and THQ, the thing that THQ Nordic came from, originally made like all of like most of the games I played on my Let's Play channel came from that. The SpongeBob games, the Jimmy Neutron games, the Fairly Odd Parents games, all THQ. And a lot of people love Battle for Bikini Bottom. Like all those games are very much varying in quality, but Battle for Bikini Bottom is great and amazing, and people have wanted like some sort of remake or remaster or re-release. It's had no re-releases. It's like the only game to exist that has a following that has no form of re-release in any way, as far as I know. So people are getting excited that this THQ partnering with Nickelodeon again means that they might remake old games. But yeah, what would, have either of you guys played?
I played Battle for Bikini Bottom and the SpongeBob movie game. Did they do that one too?
Yeah, I think maybe.
Yeah, I remember enjoying them. I feel like if they're going to remake their games, it should probably... I don't know if it's because they're the only 2 I played. I mean, did they do Nicktoons Unite?
Yes.
Alright, I played that on the Game Boy. That was pretty fun, but even so, I feel like a lot of their games, while they were, regardless of their quality, I don't believe the audience is there for them anymore, aside from probably just those 2 SpongeBob games. So I think it's a good idea. I don't think they should do it to every single game. They should probably have a poll, but if they did, I think it'd be exciting. I personally would suggest a PC release, as PC gaming is becoming a lot broader, so they should probably convert a couple of games to Steam.
You know, they also made Drake and Josh for the Game Boy Advance in 2007.
I used to play that, yeah.
Drake and Josh had a video game?
Yeah.
Of course.
What
Of
what
course.
could you even do, like as a game with them?
I don't.
You had to
Is it
like
like
walk. You had to like walk through the halls of the school, and like Megan was doing devious things, and you had to avoid her like throwing stuff at you. I don't remember much of it, but it was
Wait.
something like that.
So was it kind of like a life like role playing game rather than like an action or like a fighting objective kind of game?
No, it was 2D, and yeah, it was from like a bird's eye view. It wasn't like, yeah, it was an interesting game.
Oh,
You're being serious right now. You actually played this.
Yeah, I had it on my Game Boy.
it sounds like a very elaborate like DisneyChannel.com game from like the mid 2000s.
Disney Channel.
Yeah, Disney Channel had a whole lot of online games
All their
for like
Zack
all
and
their
Cody
shows.
games were so much fun. I used to play
Yeah.
all those. Yeah.
I spent a lot of time on Nick.com and CartoonNetwork.com. Never any on Disney.com.
Oh wow, you missed out.
Also, I thought for a second you were implying that Drake and Josh was a Disney Channel show.
Oh no,
I was gonna
no,
be like,
it just reminded me of one of those games. I don't know, the Nick.com games. They were they were just different. Same with the Cartoon Network games. Like the Cartoon Network games were more like kind of action or like puzzle games. The Nick.com games, I don't know, were like interactive. I guess I don't really remember the Nick.com games that much. And like the Disney Channel games were just like simple things like deflecting pans, or there was this one where like you ran a shop and that was it.
Huh. Well, anyway, yeah, I would love them to honestly just re-release Battle for Bikini Bottom. I like your suggestion. Just put it on Steam if they can. I mean, they might need to remake it or something, but
Yeah.
it's not a huge game. The movie game can take a hike, I think, unless they want to remake it without the stupid Superman 64 ring missions. There's a history with
yeah,
this.
that's why I never beat it. I was like super frustrated at those, and at the time I was like, I think I was like 9 or 10, and I just did not want to do it, so I didn't beat the game.
Yeah, well, here's some nostalgia for anyone who watched my Let's Play channel. There's one ring mission. So you fly first-person perspective as like a missile, okay? And you gotta fly through rings. Well, there's one level that's in this big dump, okay? So the background is all literal garbage, and it's like dank and depressing, like literally dank. And you have to fly in a circle around this arena once before moving on to the next arena where you circle around that. The thing is, because you're first person and the rings only appear, the next one appears as you fly through the one before it. So you can't plan your course ahead of time. You don't know where you're looping around or where you're going to the next one. Point is, it's a nightmare. It's a complete nightmare. There's like an hour of me playing that mission straight on YouTube. There you go.
Excellent.
Yes. Any opinion, Monsters?
Yeah, I didn't play too many licensed games when I was younger. In terms of the ones that Nickelodeon made in collaboration with THQ, I did have Atlantis Square Pantis for the Wii. I had the SpongeBob movie game for the GameCube, and I had the Barnyard game for the GameCube. It looks cool. I don't see myself really buying any of the remastered or remade games if they so choose to release those. I don't know why they'd just sit on the license after acquiring it again. I was reading an article, and there was like a list of shows that they had the license to, and it was a lot of shows that had games like Avatar and Jimmy Neutron, and I think I even saw Ren and Stimpy on that list. So it'd be interesting to see some of those re-released or remade. And just in general, I don't play as many video games anymore. I'll play Rocket League occasionally, but unfortunately, I don't see myself participating in this much.
I would definitely play Battle if it got remade. But I mean, I don't think any of the other ones really... I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I like Nicktoons Unite and some of the other ones as a novelty, but like, to pay $60 to play that game, which is like it's like a 4-hour game, it wouldn't make sense, and it wouldn't make business sense for them to completely remake it. If it was as easy as, like, you know, touch up a few things and release it on Steam, honestly, go for it. If they could do it for as many games as whatever. I mean, I would love to play, like, if I could spend like $3 to try out that Drake and Josh game, that would be a weird novelty, sure. But like completely remaking it or something, only Battle for Bikini Bottom, I think, would have the sales numbers to justify that. And I think quality-wise it's their best game of their licensed games they made, I think.
I could also see them doing a bundle of sorts. So for like $25, they just have like a dozen or so remastered old Nickelodeon video games in there.
Well, the problem is that like they typically don't bundle like GameCube era games as multiple games. Like they wouldn't do like 5 of those together. I don't know if it's for storage space or just resource time, but I could see them dumping like 5 of the Game Boy Advanced adaptations onto something like
Well, yeah.
the
Well,
eShop.
I actually had like a Game Boy cartridge, and it was like 4 Nickelodeon
4
games.
in 1?
Yeah. So
Yep.
like one was Rocket Power, one was like Fairly Odd Parents. So.
And none of them are good. I've played the Cleft one. I've played the Freeze Frame Frenzy one.
Oh, I played that one.
Yeah, that's a weird game. I was gonna let's play it, but that didn't work out. Anyway, next question. So, Comic Book Fanatic 3893 on Discord asks, if you were to pinpoint down the biggest things that makes reboots or revivals succeed and what makes them fail, what would it be? Aside from how businesses handle these reboots or revivals.
So advertising doesn't count?
Correct.
Okay, because it's all that.
I mean,
A lot of it is PR.
Well, I would say like at least like 90%. It's mainly that.
okay, succeed. Let's talk about succeed and fail in terms of quality, not in terms of viewership, because
Okay.
I agree. Like, a lot of it is how they promote this stuff. But, I mean, they promoted... yeah, go for it.
I guess it depends on what their objective is with the show. And it all comes down to the point to, are they writing these episodes because they're trying to tell a story, or are they writing these episodes because they're trying to entertain? And of course, like, you should always have elements of both. It's just, the strength should come from, you should be trying to put effort into making this show, like, the best it can be, which sounds obvious, but a lot of people, they settle, they go for, like, I guess, pandering, or being like, well, if this is good enough, that's fast, that's good work, on to the next episode. So it's really, you gotta love what you're doing with your passion, I guess. So if you're doing a reboot, especially because it's based on work from beforehand, I wouldn't say you necessarily have to be a fan of what came beforehand, but like, if you're going to do this, you need to like be passionate about it, because it's going to get compared to what came beforehand.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. Like, good writing is good writing, is the thing. Like, doesn't matter. It could be on, I don't know, a show for little girls about horses. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if the writing is good, the people will come. Like, that makes sense. The other thing I would say, in my personal preference, make it different. Do something completely different. And that's not guaranteeing it'll be good, but if you do something completely different, it diminishes that feeling of like, it's the uncanny valley feeling, like with the Powerpuff Girls reboot of like, this is almost like the thing I watched, but it's not quite. And the ways that it's not quite are bad, and I don't like them, and it's an easy comparison and everyone can see it. But if the Powerpuff Girls reboot were to do something like serialized storytelling, like more of like what they did with the Power of Four, then at least, which is funny because we compared a Power of 4 episode, but like, then at least you could say, okay, it's the Powerpuff Girls, but with a storyline, or it's the Powerpuff Girls, but they're in middle school, or, you know, like, you do something to give it a hook instead of it's just like, it's the Powerpuff Girls again, but like, slightly
They
different.
have fingers.
Yeah, I mean, oh god, no. And I know like DuckTales completely subverts what I'm saying, and it's still a good show, and that's true. If you can, but they still take their own decisions. I don't know. I mean, like, we'll get into a little bit with the Ben 10 thing, but just like, I don't know. It's just why reboot something or revive it if you're going to do the exact same thing again? Because I think, like, even the people that know what they're doing most of the time, like the people who wrote the stuff originally, if you bring them back 10 years later, they're not still going to have the same chops and perspective and crew and all that stuff. So it's like, might as well just take it in a different direction. How about you, Monsters?
So, in terms of trends that I've seen among reboots and revivals that have succeeded, usually they either bring the same quality to the table or improve upon the original, especially the weaknesses. In terms of revivals especially, they retain a lot of the same cast and crew because they really need to have that same creative influence. And they also need to be warranted to exist. They need to have a reason to exist other than just selling merch or because the show was popular. There needs to be some sort of creative reason for the show to exist. And in terms of the bad things, I don't think that the ones that fail respect the original properties. A lot of them actually take away meaning for some from the originals. And another thing too is that when you see these networks reboot older properties nowadays, they will reboot them, but they won't make them suitable for the older audience that grew up with them. So there's all of these older people that come in to watch them, but they're not exactly targeted towards them. So, and they're for a much younger audience. And I think that they're missing out on an entire demographic of people there.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's kind of like what we were talking about with Disenchanted and Matt Groening, like relying on his reputation, and it's just like a lot of reboots get made because the networks and the producers think they can get by on the reputation of the old show. That's true. Like, that's how they get made. They think that the viewership is built in, that people automatically will care and will watch, which was true, but I think we've just reached a saturation where it's like nothing is getting people to tune in for the Powerpuff Girls reboot. Nothing at all. Not gimmicks, not new characters, nothing can get people to watch that show because people saw the initial bad press, they saw it initially, they gave it a chance, and it wasn't worth it. It just wasn't.
Right.
Now, I don't know how well the Ben 10 reboot's doing. I just know that Cartoon Network airs it like once a day.
It's got a third season on the way, so I guess it's good enough to warrant that.
From what I saw on Wikipedia, it looked like it was over 1 million viewership on at least the important episodes, which is better than the Powerpuff Girls reboot's doing, better than Teen Titans Go is doing in some places.
Yeah, it's like the reboot, at least from the start, I feel like it went in the same direction, or at least the same approach as the typical Cartoon Network reboot, like Teen Titans Go and Powerpuff Girls, where they try to make it more comedic. I would say the humor is different in the show as to those, but it's still like the same thing where it's trying to rely on being the new comedy effect, making the villains like beyond goofy and bizarre, ridiculous one-liners, zany characterizations and whatnot. And then the first Vilgax episode happened, and it was almost like an entirely different show.
This is a great segue you're doing right here. I like it.
We can get into this now. And it's like I feel like this is the kind of show they should have made from the start. And it's like since they did that, the show started to go in a different direction. Season 2, it's still like sporadic and episodic, but it's a lot more, there's more of like that classic Ben 10 feel and elements to it. They're trying to, I wouldn't say like they're taking it more seriously in the sense that it's getting like more arc centered and dark and whatever, but it's like
Vilgax isn't a comedy villain.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And it's like he doesn't fit in the world so much that it makes it hilarious.
All right. So that gets us into our discussion tonight, our big one. So we are going to be talking about the actually before we get into that, sorry, one thing,
no problem.
We do need to announce the shows that we're going to be talking about next week and the week after. So we decided that we're going to now announce shows 2 weeks in advance so that our audience, you guys, have like 2 weeks to watch episodes. So if you want to join in, you want to be a part of the discussion, there's like plenty of time to do that. So next week, because it should be the day before the Adventure Time finale comes out, we are going to be talking about the Adventure Time episodes, Slumber Party Panic, and From Bad to Worse. Both of these episodes kind of feature the same plot, and I think it's a good way to show how Adventure Time changed between seasons 1 and season, I want to say early season 3 or 4. So those are the 2 episodes if you want to check them out. And then, Monsters, you want to announce the one we're doing the week after?
Sure. So the week after the Adventure Time episodes, we're going to be comparing an episode of Rocko's Modern Life and Camp Lazlo. Now, I know that this is the reboot, revival, rehash cast. Camp Lazlo is not a reboot or a revival, and I refrain from using the term rehash to describe it in comparison to Rocko. But I mean, obviously, they're both created by Joe Murray. The titular character is voiced by Carlos Alazraqui. They both have a bunch of stylistic similarities. But yeah, we're going to be comparing the episode The High Five of Doom from Rocko to Beans Are From Mars to Camp Lazlo.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we wanted to, just so you guys know, we're not strictly about comparing like just originals to straight up reboots. It's
right.
Sometimes it's going to be about earlier seasons and later seasons. Sometimes it's going to be about shows made by the same creator. Sometimes it's going to be, I don't know, maybe we'll do 1 week where we do the reanimated movie and an Out of Jimmy's Head episode. I don't know.
Ooh.
Maybe if we're both feeling awful that week, we'll do that to ourselves. When life can't get any worse, you just watch Out of Jimmy's Head.
Of course, yeah.
Some of those episodes are lost, thank goodness. The Lost Media Wiki needs to stop looking for those because that's fine. But yeah, just so you guys know, we always planned for our net to be wide. We're just starting out with the classics in terms of like reboots and originals. Right. So that brings us to tonight's episodes, The Big Tick from Ben 10 and The 11th Alien from the Ben 10 reboot. Before we get into this, I just kind of thought I'd set the tone here. So Kuro is a pretty big Ben 10 fan.
Just a teeny bit.
So you're an expert. You've seen a lot of, you've seen tons of Ben 10 and you've seen a lot of this reboot.
I've seen all 4 series of the classic continuity as it came out. I grew up with the show. As for the reboot, I've seen, I'd say probably about a third of season 1 and about a fourth of season 2. But I'm very caught up in like all of the events, as a lot of my friends in the fandom watch it and like heavily keep me updated, so I don't have to watch it. But yeah. Okay,
and then Monsters is going to be our complete new, I saw all of the original Ben 10. I've been rewatching it. I've seen miscellaneous episodes from the other 3 series in that original continuity, and I've seen from the reboot like 1 or 2 random episodes from season 1. I've seen Omnitricked, and I've seen this episode, The 11th Alien. Monsters has seen only The 11th Alien, correct?
Of the reboot, yes.
Of the reboot. I presumably you also saw The Big Tick from the original, I'd hope.
Yeah, well, when I was younger, I also watched the original. I was a big fan. I bought action figures and all that stuff. And I watched a little bit of Ultimate Alien and Alien Force. I also did watch the crossover specials from Omniverse. I believe they crossed over with Generator Rex and then the Secret Saturdays. So I watched both of those. But besides that, I haven't really been much in the loop of Ben 10.
Okay, so we've kind of got like the expert, Kuro, me, who's kind of like knows a little bit about it, and Monsters, who for the most part hasn't seen anything Ben 10 in what, like 5 years, 10 years?
10 years probably, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we've kind of got 3 different perspectives going in. So to start off here, we have The Big Tick from Ben 10. This is an episode where like this meteorite comes and crashes conveniently right down in front of Ben, Gwen, and Max. If it didn't, I guess the entire world would just be doomed. Where it's basically a giant tick who feeds off the Earth and destroys it. He feeds off various planets, and he is heralded by these 3 followers of the tick, these like cult followers of it who are trying to defend it. Ben, meanwhile, gets a new alien just by messing around with the watch. Cannonbolt, who he thinks is useless. Turns out Cannonbolt's the only thing that can save the day.
All right.
Would either of you like to describe the 11th Alien?
Sure. So Ben is dealing with these new features he's gotten with the Omnitrix at the end of season 1 of the reboot. Now sometimes his aliens like get these blue glowy rock attachments and stuff, and he doesn't know what it is. Then reboot Vilgax shows up, and he's like, "Hey man, you can't control your powers. You're gonna doom us all." And every time Ben goes alien, something goes wrong, and Ben starts to doubt himself. And then it turns out it was just Vilgax messing with him. With these other villains who show up at the end of the episode, the Weatherheads, who were making bad things happen, and making Ben think it was him. So he uses his new 11th alien, the one he's been afraid to use, to defeat Vilgax.
Shock Rock.
Shock Rock.
So the things these episodes have in common, they're both, they're both supposed to be Ben's 11th alien. I'll get to that in a second. These episodes are they're kind of like mirrored in that Ben thinks that Cannonbolt is lame and doesn't want to use him, but then in the reboot, Ben, he thinks that Shock Rock is overpowered and he can't use him. So there's that kind of thing. They're both actually, Cannonbolt and Shock Rock kind of have the same build too. They're both 22 minutes. This is the only episode of the reboot that's 22 minutes. Omnitricked is 44. So the big thing that I want to say right off the bat is that the reboot like messed its titles up. So Omnitricked, the season 1 finale, spoilers I guess, features Ben getting an 11th alien in the form of Vilgax's species, okay? And then Vilgax comes around and is like, "Hey, buddy, can I take that from you?" And then shenanigans happen, whatever. He doesn't trick Ben at any point in that episode. But you know what he does in this episode, the 11th alien? Ben doesn't get his 11th alien, it's his 12th alien. It's his 11th alien that he can use regularly, I guess. But Vilgax tricks him in this episode. What's going on here? I feel like I've been omnitricked.
That's true. I never even thought of that comparison. If they switched the titles, it would make a lot more sense.
Right? All the promo imagery for Omnitrick too. Also, I mean that's a totally different discussion. But so Monsters and I picked this episode, these two episodes, just knowing that they're the 11th alien of Ben's. We didn't really watch them before we picked them, so they're pretty different episodes. But it's funny too because they're like a relatively fair comparison. Because like you were saying, Reboot Ben is comedy. It's very comedy. It has action, but it's a lot of comedic action. And because it's 11 minutes, it doesn't have time to do subtlety or like building up of a story. It's basically like villain shows up, Ben goes alien, something goes wrong, Ben goes alien a second time, kicks the butt of the villain. Like that's the structure from the very little I've seen.
Yeah, the pacing felt super rushed. In fact, as I was watching it, I was like visualizing like, what if I took this clip and just like added spaces and pauses in between the dialogue? It's like everything happens so fast, like you can't sit in the moment. It's just it's too quickly paced. I don't know, maybe I'm just used to the pacing of older cartoons, I guess. But I don't know.
Well, that's the funny thing is that the 11th Alien it's 22 minutes, but it's done in part 1 and part 2, and so it still feels rushed because it's still kind of paced like 2 11-minute cartoons, if that makes any sense.
Right.
Yeah. It should have been an hour, probably.
So the Big Tick, what do you guys think of this episode?
I think it's a fantastic episode, and it's also a very dull episode. I've like, because the way the classic series works is it does have a continuity in a sense that every episode builds on to the world more and more.
Except for the stupid lake monster episode.
Yeah. And this one, it's fantastic as it introduces the fact that Ben can transform into a new alien. It shows how he really tries to figure something out. It shows a new species. There's a new threat. It's always nice to see like some crazy villain designs. The classic series was very good with their character work, but it's also just it doesn't really have anything that really attaches you to what's happening. I don't know. I always compare everything of how good it is to how much did I like care about what's happening in the characters. And it's more of just I was interested in the fact that he had an 11th alien, but there was one line in the episode where it says like the tick has poisoned almost the entire world, like at a global scale, and it didn't feel like that.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's the thing. I mean, I would say honestly, the weakest parts of the episode for me were the very beginning and the very end. Ben unlocking an alien, holy cow, that's a huge deal. Ben unlocking an alien by like tapping on the watch a few times. Like, what was it that Ben wants to go get like burritos or something?
Yeah, Gwen and him were just kind of fidgeting with it.
Yeah.
The Omnitrix is
a new alien.
Well, it's implied he gets new aliens with codes. With the Omnitrix,
it's applied later in the series.
Yeah, later on. I'm sure. Yeah, I guess like in the conception of this episode, they probably didn't think of that, but it is. it did just kind of happen out of nowhere.
Well, it's weird. It's weird too because this episode is only like 2 or 3 episodes after the season 1 finale, and you think that maybe like they could have tied it into like Vilgax doing something to the watch or Phil messing with the watch and stuff. Like just they could have tied it into something as opposed to just like, well, we're season 2. Ben's got to get a new alien. So I felt like the introduction in that way was just kind of super lame, and then the ending. Okay, things just go back to normal. That's the
that
dumbest
made absolutely
thing.
No sense.
Yeah, so like you say, the tick is like sucking out the entire world, and and we don't get to see that on a scale of anything other than Yellowstone.
Jellystone.
Yogi Bear's in this episode, guys.
Yeah, he's the 11th alien.
we only get to see it in the scope of the park, and I felt like they had a perfect excuse of like, okay, instead of like saying that the Earth is going to be destroyed, but it's going to start in a small radius, and then how about you have it so that when the tick explodes, it's like got fertilizer for in existence, and it just makes the stuff rapid grow back to normal. That's still a stupid kind of leg pulley ending, but it's not just like, woo, magical wave warp, everything is back as you imagined. Good job, Ben. You still got to clean the rust bucket.
One quote that I thought was funny that I wrote down was when Grandpa Max said, "If there's one more, who knows? There could be 100 more." And from what I know of the extended Ben 10 lore, there's like hundreds more, thousands more aliens.
1,912,000.
Jeez.
Where's
So that was funny.
Is that Ben when he's like when he's outlived the universe? You know, because there's been 10,000 in the future, and then just like far flung future.
Yeah, it's been the immortal. No, but like they say how much is in the Omnitrix, but he doesn't like always have access to all of them. Like whenever he has master control, he can, but it always like goes away conveniently.
I don't know. I wouldn't really want to watch a show where he could. I mean, it would pretty much just, if I had access to like 1 million aliens, it would just be like, should I go this one or this one?
Yeah, it was a little jarring at first because like in the classic series you meet Ben 10,000 and it's like whoa, and then in the second series it's like yeah, you have over 1 million, and it's kind of like then he meets his future self again and he's still called Ben 10,000, and it's like why? You have a lot more than that. So
you see time travel and so yeah, like I thought that like those two elements of the episode were really lame, but like I loved everything else. I loved the designs of the Tick and of the backgrounds in this just like desolate park. Cannonbolt is interesting. We could talk about him and talk about Shock Rock together, I guess. But like I like that. I like the story. I like how it's just these cult. They're like cultists. Well, they're not cultists. They're like cult followers, I should say.
Loyalists.
That just yeah, and like you also get the sense. Did you guys get the sense that the guy talking to the Tick wasn't actually talking to the Tick?
I was just gonna comment on that. I was like, it's kind of implied but not said that the Tick probably really doesn't communicate with them at all. It's probably just like a projection.
Well, he points out too, he's like, I'm the only person that can speak to the Tick.
Yeah, at the end he's like rubbing like the detached scale.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not sure I hear anything.
But I love that. I love that it's a tick, like it's a Tick. And the design is great, and it's not like don't get me wrong, I love Marvel Comics, but like Galactus is goofy looking. But this is instead of doing like a humanoid alien or like having something that could talk, it's just a monster. And because it's a monster, they can also get away with blowing it up.
Yeah, it's visceral.
Were you guys reminded when Cannonbolt was rolling around in there of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 3?
Oh,
I can see that. Yeah.
Especially like the ribcage thing.
Yeah, Ben, they don't hold back because Ben just breaks right through a rib cage. Like he goes through a heart. It looks like.
Yeah, anything non-human in the show they'll pretty much destroy, except in Ultimate Alien. They kill humans there too.
Isn't there a special called Destroy All Aliens?
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I find to be highly offensive because Ben's been like those aliens. All right, why would you destroy all the aliens? That's racist.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with anything I want to make that joke.
Was it just me, or did you guys think that some of the action that Grandpa Max participated in towards the end was a bit ridiculous?
Well, I think we both want to jump in. Only a few episodes before, like, okay, so Grandpa gets tossed around quite a bit, but you know, he was a plumber, all right?
Yeah.
A few episodes before, he actually does get wounded and has to be in the hospital. So they do actually have that element of realism sometimes.
Yeah, they're kind of inconsistent sometimes. Like there's one episode in season 4 where Grandpa, it's kind of emphasizing he's old, so they try to play up the traits in that, like he can't see, he's running out of breath and everything. And then later in a later episode, he's flying around with a jetpack.
You know, he's literally like Captain America in this episode with all those scowls, using them as the shields, jumping off of floating platforms and things. Like he's just doing all this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and I mean, like, okay, so it is kind of predictable, like, because Ben thinks the alien is lame. Of course, that's going to be the solution. And good God, is Cannonbolt the solution to a lot of future episodes? I haven't even gotten there, but I seem to remember Cannonbolt is the solution to the next time Kevin appears too.
Yep.
Knew it. Because he hasn't met that alien yet. A little, no. But yeah, it's obvious that that's where they're going. But like the journey along the way. This episode features every single one of Ben's aliens except for one. Can you guys name the one? I looked it up.
Great matter. What do I win?
Nothing. Yeah, but it's cool, right? There's very few episodes where all of the 10 aliens, 11 aliens are featured.
Yeah.
In the original show.
Yeah, there's always at least one that's never featured. unfortunately. And that's like all the way to like all 4 series.
I mean, there's also
Weird.
Kevin, who's like an amalgamation of a bunch of different aliens.
Yeah. But he doesn't use all their powers. Like, he has Ghost
That's
Freak
true.
in there, but he never phases.
Right.
No one loves Ghost Freak. Not in the reboot. Gets kicked off of Ben's watch
Nope.
in the original. Unlovable. But yeah, no, like, what did you guys think? Like, that montage sequence, I mean, it was brief, but, like, I don't know, I thought it was nice. I don't know, dude, how long it must have been there for the watch to time out all of those times.
Right.
No, yeah, I really like that sequence, because, like, every shot was, like, because it was a still frame, they, like, took advantage of that and, like, put a lot of effort into each frame. And there was, like, slight animations, like, I think I remember, like, steam and electricity, or, like, rushing lines and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just always good to see him, like, try to go about things different ways, but it is interesting how, like, at the beginning and the end of the episode, it's still, like, broad daylight.
Yeah.
So... I don't know, the timing out was always another, like, inconsistent problem in the show.
Oh yeah, I mean, it is in the reboot too.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I actually really enjoyed this episode. Like I said, like, it's weird because the like major elements of it are kind of lame. Like, it's not about the 11th alien, which is a weird decision. I mean, it's about it, but it's not about it. Like, you would think that they'd spend a whole episode on it. I mean, really, that's what the reboot is. It's a whole 22 minutes devoted to Shock Rock. What did you guys think of that?
Of the reboot one?
No, of the original, not really. Like, it's not about
Oh.
Cannonbolt. Cannonbolt's just the solution.
No, yeah, I mean, when you put it into perspective that, like, it is a big deal that he does have an 11th alien, but, I don't know, like how you said, like, the threat, isn't really that big of a deal, yet it is the whole point of the episode, and he's not really in it all that much either. Like, Ben deliberately tries to avoid him. Like, I guess they should have emphasized more about what the alien is.
But they did do a cool job. Like they snuck in his alien name. Like, because one of the cultists mentioned that his planet was destroyed. Oops.
Oh, yeah. No, I like that. It's all, like, I like how they expand the lore, like, in subtle lines like that every now and then, too. So that's always nice. There's a lot of really, really good elements to the episode. But ultimately, it's like, I don't know. What's that?
How did you guys feel about the humor in the Big Tick?
I don't remember the humor in the Big Tick, so I guess it didn't land with me.
Yeah, like, because
Same.
I paid attention to that, and I didn't really find a lot of it funny, especially with Gwen. Most of her jokes just consisted of her making fun of how Ben smelt.
Stinkfly is something about Stinkfly and deodorant, I think.
Yeah. I think she said it like twice, though, but she was just like, yeah, you smell like you belong in a locker room or something like that. And I was like, oh, haha.
That's one thing the reboot does very well, is I never really like realized it until looking back at it, but I really did not like how Ben and Gwen interacted in the classic series. They're like, I get they're cousins and they're bickering, but it wasn't appealing to watch, and it happened very often. Whereas in the reboot, it's more like they're very different from each other, but they're still family and they're still supportive of each other. And I like that more.
All right, throwdown time. I hate supportive Gwen. I find her and Max in the reboot utterly boring. They are completely useless characters that do nothing. Bet you want to talk, like, I will take unrealistic action grandpa over like he drives them around. He drives the bus. Like,
no, with Grandpa Max, I completely agree. Especially the fact that he is not voiced by Paul Eiting.
oh yeah,
there's
awful.
nothing about Grandpa Max in the reboot that I like, and it's not a testament to the voice actor, the art style. It's just like he does nothing in every single episode.
Yep. I mean, even in Omnitricked, and even in so there's in is it this? No, it's in Omnitricked where they introduce Phil, who is his old like mechanic buddy or like genius buddy that Max had, who he's implied to maybe be a plumber because he knows of the Omnitrix. We don't get any explanation on that, at least not in Omnitricked or this one. But even still, there's no hint that Max can do anything other than just be a normal, boring grandpa. But I will fight you on Gwen. I'm not saying that Gwen is funny in the original, really, but her butting heads with Ben, I found to be like realistic and to give their characters an edge and just kind of like something for them to do, as opposed to Gwen in the reboot, she's just like Ben's support system. It's boring. Yeah, I don't know.
I thought she was overly cheery. Like, I thought she was just way too positive, and it felt really out of place.
I mean, I will say as a whole, I like Classic Gwen much better, like as a character. But I mean, like in the dynamic, the way they interact with each other, it's just I don't enjoy watching Ben and Gwen bicker all the time. It takes up a lot of time in every episode. They do it quite frequently, and they do grow closer as the series goes on. But still, by season 4, it's still eating up so much screen time. Whereas in the reboot, Mac lacks so much that Ben needs somebody he can like positively bounce his ideas off of or support him and help him. So if Grandpa Max can't fill the role, Gwen does an excellent job in it. So the reboot really is more about Ben. Gwen is very two-dimensional and is there just to reflect off of Ben. But I enjoy watching the positive support of each other more than I watch Ben and Gwen arguing. But Classic Ben is much better. She's a more developed character. The magic is awesome. The voice... I'm more used to the classic voice, so I'm more attached to that. But I do like the reboot voice actor too.
She seems younger in the reboot.
She is the voice actor. I think she's only 18, I believe.
I don't just mean the voice. I just mean the character in general because she seems friendlier and like I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they're 10 in all.
No, I get what you mean. Yeah, because in the classic, she's got like that kind of mature, like I'm smarter than you kind of attitude. Whereas here, it's more of just like she's just more knowledgeable, but she's not all like I'm smarter and better than you.
Yeah, basically like she kind of like just started to hit puberty and had like an edge to her in the original, whereas the reboot feels like just like younger than that, like not yet having that like she still has like the wide eyes of a child. I don't know, maybe that's just me reading into it too much.
Now, what was weird about me watching this 11th Alien episode was that, like we mentioned earlier, it was my first entire episode of the reboot. So I wrote down some things that I noticed about the reboot. First off, I think the new theme song sucks. It's just kids yelling Ben 10 every few seconds. And yeah, but
dude, 5 versions of this stinking show, and only the original one has an actual good song to it.
Right.
I'm sorry, Kuro.
No, it's fine. I particularly don't really like any of the openings, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, it's
original?
like the original. It's like it's catchy, it's nostalgic, but it's like I don't know. It's not that I dislike it. It's just I'm not attached to it, and I don't enjoy it. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I've heard it like for 2 decades now, practically. Well, not 2 decades because it's not even that old. But I mean, I've heard it a billion times, so it's kind of oversaturated with me.
What were you saying, Monsters?
Well, I was going to transition into talking more about the reboot episode. I thought that Grandpa Max had a bit of a abrupt and instantaneous change of heart. Because he basically, when Vilgax shows up the second time in part 2, he's like, "Yeah, you should hand it over, Ben." And then Ben walks up, talks to Vilgax for a little bit, and then Ben looks over to Grandpa Max and he's like, "Let's solve this. Don't give it to him." And I was like, "What?" Like they don't show what made him change his mind.
It's because reboot Max is just irrelevant. And he just needs lines, I guess, because 10-year-olds can't drive themselves around.
Listen, like, catatonic Max is so much better than if they had made him like the professor on the Powerpuff Girls reboot. I'm just throwing that out there. But yeah, that's probably the biggest problem in the reboot's episodes is that how abrupt all of it is. Like, dude, Vilgax's plan is cool. Like, tricking Ben to thinking one of his aliens, a new alien, is too powerful to use, and he has to get rid of the watch. And Vilgax, because there's no plumbers in this world that we know of aside from maybe Phil, Vilgax is Ben's only chance of getting the watch off, aside from cutting his arm off, I guess, but that's never explored. Not explored enough in the series, I might add. No, but, like, yeah, like, that's a cool plan, but he talks like he's like, Ben, it's too dangerous, and Ben's like, I'm not giving up the watch. And then in part 1 he looks back to Max and Gwen, and Max is like, maybe you should, Ben. And it's like, what? Like, this just happened. Like, he just transformed into this alien and there's a storm brewing, and it's like, how do we know all of Ben's aliens have this new weird form to it that's dangerous? We don't, and it turns out that's not true. But because Ben was dangerous one time, it's like, oh, better give up the omnitrix forever. And he says that there's even a part in this where he's like, "Oh, my options are either I go alien and destroy the world, or I never become a hero again and grow old and die, or I give Vilgax the watch." Like, Ben, maybe try another alien.
Yeah, it definitely suffers from the 11-minute time frame. They just they fit so much in it that it really has to rely on the concepts rather than the execution, because it's not paced enough to really hold the weight of what's happening.
Yeah.
I know some people thought that the humor in the reboot episode was a bit forced, but I actually did like their pokes at hipster culture.
Yeah, I feel like I really like that, honestly. Like,
Is this
usually
a performance
those modern
piece?
pokes annoy me, but I'm sorry to keep cutting you off. Continue.
No, I just loved it when the guy was like, "Is this a performance piece?" And then once he got unfroze, he was just like, "This is so moving."
So you guys think this episode is funnier than The Big Tick? Ooh, it might be.
Funnier, definitely.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, the end joke wasn't funny though. The end kind of punchline of the 11th alien is just Ben flopping over on the ground, and it's supposed to be this haha moment at the end, but I didn't really laugh at it.
What? I don't even remember that.
He flops over on the ground.
Ben?
Yeah.
Did you watch the same episode as me?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Were you watching Omniverse? That's what we'll do one week. We'll tell a guest to watch a completely different episode than what we watch, and we'll see how long it takes. Just be completely awful.
Yes, that would be excellent.
It's like, oh, I'm sorry. We're watching Be Cool Scooby Doo, not What's New Scooby Doo. I'm sorry. All right. Well, while you're looking at that, I want to point out that Heat Blast having ice powers is actually something that happened in the original when Ben had a cold. He was like Ice Blast. So I don't know if it was an intentional reference, but that was kind of cool. The whole like fusion alien thing definitely reminded me of that awful slime thing from the Omniverse series. So I wasn't quite a fan of that. Although like seeing the aliens with new powers is kind of cool, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. Like, they do have an explanation for it. It's supposed to come in the season 2 finale. No one really knows what it is, but it's just the fact they kind of just threw it in there. And it makes it even more complicated for people to try to get a handle on the show if they were to watch just random episodes. Because they treat the show more or less in an episodic format. So if someone was just going to come into this and see, like, this kid not only transforms into aliens, but now has all these, like, magic rocks and stuff attached to him. And I still haven't even explained it, so people who even watch the show have no idea what's happening. It's like, I don't know if I know where it came from, I would appreciate it better. But right now, I don't even think it's super cool, I guess. I don't know.
Right. What did you guys think of Vilgax in this episode? Now, Monsters, you don't really know entirely the context, but just to fill you in, I guess, in Omnitricked, Vilgax, I guess he does just show up randomly. Never mind, it's not really. It doesn't matter. It's the same sort of thing, right, Kuro? I'm not wrong.
No, yeah, you're right. I mean, if you have no idea anything about him, you just know he's a villain, and that's it. That's all you need to know.
Well, one thing I remember from the original was that he was super intimidating. Like, he had such a menacing vibe to him, but in this episode, he didn't come off as very intimidating to me. He came off as very controlling and manipulative, and obviously he was almost successful, seemingly, in getting Ben to turn over the Omnitrix, but I didn't really, he didn't seem as conniving to me.
Well, I guess to give the little bit of context is that when we first see him in Omnitricked, he's like this withered man with a cloak. He's like Yodaing it up. And basically it's not even really explained, but he like sucks an alien out of Ben.
Huh?
Like the Vilgax alien, he just kind of like absorbs it and he's like, now I'm powerful. I'm sure I sound crazy talking about this. I'm not, this is accurate though. And basically Ben sinks his ship to get off the planet at the end of the episode. So the idea is that Vilgax is not the Vilgax in the original show who had robots and minions and clout in the universe, it seems.
He still got robots.
Oh, excuse me. But he doesn't. His ship was just sunk. He's stranded on Earth, and like when we first see him in that episode, he's like a withered, crusty old guy. So it makes sense to me that he doesn't. That he's still intimidating. I think. Like I enjoyed him in this episode. I think he did a good job. But he's not like all powerful or not as powerful as a threat as he was supposed to be built up to be in the original series. If that makes sense.
Right.
So the Weatherheads are. Is that the name?
Yeah, I don't know anything about them, to be honest.
I looked at the wiki. They're in one other episode. Way to have like the characters that play a part in the story episode be like the only villain to not really recur otherwise. Like Animo, I'm sure has been in the series like 10 times, probably.
Yeah, Animo's he's a decently big part of the reboot. I think he's in like 5 episodes or so.
He's an Omnitrick. I mean, they chose a villain that's like common, but like here, it's like, oh, these guys. So if you didn't see the 11-minute episode from season 1 with that they're in, when the show was non-continuity or low continuity or whatever, you just kind of like, oh, there's these robots that control weather. I don't know. I thought they were kind of awful, and I also think that Ben, if you faced villains that can control the weather, and your powers seemingly come from the weather, wouldn't that be the first place you'd think of? Like, maybe it's obvious from, like, a viewer's perspective, but just, like, I feel like that's just, like, a really stupid conclusion to draw to if you know one of your villains has power over the weather, and it seems to only be storms that are being caused because of this alien.
I do think that they felt very shoehorned in.
No, I agree. Like, it does... watching it through a second time, it makes sense in the fact that, like, you see the weather happening, but it does nothing to foreshadow them. And it's not to say I like when shows make it obvious, like, what the twist is going to be, but it does seem to just, like, happen right off the bat. And it's like, now the Weatherheads are a part of this, and they were behind it the whole time. And the reveal just doesn't really, like, feel earned.
Well, I mean, I think it's, I don't know about you guys, but I definitely figured out that it was a trap pretty early. Like, it seemed obvious that it was a trap. Did you guys figure it out before the reveal?
I heard a lot about they air the episodes in other countries before America, but it's always in English, so I don't understand. So people were hyping up before they knew what Shock Rock was. They said he was a weather alien. So I went into that episode expecting to see a weather alien because, like, every time he shot his beam into the sky, you'd see a storm. And like I said, I had no idea anything about the Weatherheads. So I went in, like, with influence. It was like him unlocking a weather alien, learning to use his powers, similar to a Cannonbolt episode. And then when the twist came, like, it did catch me by surprise because they didn't foreshadow it, and I had no idea who the Weatherheads was. But I don't know. It got me, I guess.
How about you, Monsters?
Yeah, I mean, just knowing, watching the show after following episodes have been released, I know that obviously he wasn't going to hand over the Omnitrix, and I mean, I don't know if...
Well, yeah.
I didn't know exactly if it was that alien that was going to not be the instigator of the problems that he kept having, but, you know, obviously there's always something fishy going on, so I did have suspicions in the back of my head.
Because it could have just been that, yeah, like he has an alien that's really powerful and he can't use it. Is that what Alien X was? I can't really
that's
remember.
like what almost every new alien he gets is.
Oh, Cannonbolt certainly wasn't that.
Well, it's more just like, whoa, what's this? It's more of like whatever new alien he gets is going to be the thing to save the day at the end of the episode. There's only like a couple of cases where that isn't true, but it's mainly like if he gets a new alien, you know he's going to save the day.
Again, coming from someone who doesn't have too much knowledge on the reboot, from what I remember of the original, each alien was unique and served its own purpose. But from the small selection of aliens they showed here, it kind of seems like they served more than one purpose. And like a lot of them kind of felt like they had like a bunch of stuff going on.
Well, I mean, they're the same aliens aside from
3.
Well, aside from, yeah, there's a redesign. Did you? It was. I don't think it was in this episode. It was in the theme song, though.
Well, Stinkfly.
Yeah.
The diamond one has like a yellow torso now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they all have minor redesigns. The big redesign is Stinkfly is now. I thought it was Big Chill from the intro.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. There's that. There's also the Aqua one appears in this episode. What's his
Overflow.
name?
He's half an original alien. He's like
half an what?
He's slightly
Ben 9.5.
He's like slightly based off of, well, he might not even, but people compare him a lot to one of the original classic series aliens. Not classic series, but original continuity. His name was Water Hazard. He's also a red aquatic alien who controls water. And originally they shared the same home planet, but then I guess they changed it because people didn't want people to compare Water Hazard to Overflow. But he's basically just like a direct rehash.
Yeah. I thought he was cool. I mean, I don't know that water hazard, but like he's got like jets. I mean, we see him in his supercharged form, but I saw an episode where it was just. It seemed like Ben hadn't used them before in the episode I saw, but he's a cool design. I like him. I like his powers. It seems to fit in with like the design sense of the other aliens.
Yeah, he's a really solid design, and I do think he's a very fun alien to watch. I'm always slightly biased against aliens that look more mechanical than organic, because it makes it harder to believe like they're an alien and not just like some machine. But with him, like, he fits into the reboot world, and you don't really have to take everything as seriously. So I think he's like a really good addition to Ben's arsenal in there.
Let's compare. So, Shock Rock, Cannonbolt.
Shock Rock is definitely cooler.
Yeah, this isn't entirely a fair comparison, but I think Shock Rock is. Because I think a part of Cannonbolt is that he's not supposed to look cool. Like, that's kind of a part of the episode. But the irony is that Cannonbolt gets used a ton. Like, I think, in the original show. I mean, he made it into the reboot. Like,
no, yeah, Cannonbolt, he's one of the most used aliens in, like, all 5 of the shows. So he's, like, he's sort of a big deal, but he really just rolls up and rolls, and that's it. Like, Shock Rock, I feel like they tried their best to, like, make one of the coolest aliens. And they succeeded in the sense that, like, he is really cool, and I enjoy his powers and his design. But it's, like, you know he was created because he's supposed to be super cool. So it's kind of like you always view it with that, like, gaze, I guess.
He looks like a toy.
Yeah.
But I mean that in a good way. This time I mean that in a good way. I don't mean like he looks like a pile of Lego bricks.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I went there. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about, Monsters?
No.
I'll tell you later.
We don't have to talk about that right now.
But yeah, no, the reboot wins out in that sense. Cannonbolt he does one thing and one thing very well. He's a pretty high powered alien from like Ben's uses of him.
He bumps into things,
but his sonic speed.
Yeah, he's one of the only aliens to survive a fall from orbit. So there's that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's useful.
Yeah,
alien,
he's useful and he's cool, but he's just. I don't know. He's not diverse, so if you see him a lot, you get tired of seeing him, and you do see him a lot.
And I would probably argue that, like, of the designs of the, let's say up to Wildvine.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say up to Wildvine. I'd say he probably looks the worst. Cannonbolt. I don't want to get into like this. I don't. Why did they do a series of episodes where Ben becomes a mummy and a werewolf and
man.
Like I don't understand that. We don't have to get into that. But like aside from those ones, the trio of question marks, of the originals, yeah, I do feel like Cannonbolt doesn't look very good. He actually, ironically, he looks better in the reboot. They did a good job redesigning him.
Yeah, he's very simple, I guess. Like I wouldn't say he looks bad, as in it's just he's very bland. He's just white with a stripe and palettes on him, while all the other aliens got like details woven into them in different colors, and like their powers look very cool when he uses him. Whereas his design always bothered me because it doesn't look like there's enough shells on his back to roll up. So every time he rolls up, I don't know. I guess his design is pretty bad. It just doesn't bother me.
Mm-hmm. You know what did bother me from the reboot episode? Gwen high-fiving Ben. That does not, in Shock Rock form, does not look like she should be able to touch him.
Oh, yeah. And when
like,
he grabs onto her hand.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, granted, they put Heat Blast in a number of situations in which Heat Blast should not have been, but still, it seemed a little weird for like this plasma alien to be high-fiving.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
This is like completely, I don't like the design of the new rust bucket.
I don't either. It's
nice. It's too nice. It's not a rust bucket. It has like tiny bits of rust at the bottom. But whereas the original one is like, yeah, this is a hunk of junk.
Yeah, it's like a nice RV, but I don't know. It's like every aspect of Grandpa Max was stripped away in the reboot, right down to his car.
Right.
And
he doesn't. Wait a minute. He doesn't serve weird food in the reboot, does he? He served like hot dogs or something.
I don't think so. No, he doesn't. He's a normal granddad.
Yeah, and the big tick,
Hey.
they show the worms. He's like, we'll live off the land.
If Grandpa didn't have his weird food obsession, we would have never gotten Cannonbolt.
Yep.
Just think about that.
It's like every reboot episode, they do their best to get rid of him as fast as they can, so they don't have to worry about him. Like in part 2, it immediately starts. Grandpa Max, he's cooking marshmallows, and then out of nowhere, a hawk flies down, grabs his marshmallows, and then his very next line is, "Well, I think I should be going inside," and then walks away.
I did find that funny, but partially just because of it's like such an excuse of like I'm surprised they let Max know about the aliens in this one. He seems like the type of character who wouldn't know about the hero's powers.
Yeah, that'd be more interesting.
That's kind of how they write
kept it a secret from him, or like I guess if he just never noticed, like Phineas and Ferb's mom kind of just being oblivious to everything.
But, I mean, you'd have to write him to be pretty stupid or blind, like
yeah.
I mean, that's like an old person trope, just kind of being unaware of their surroundings.
Mr. Magoo, Grandpa
I mean,
Max.
that would be more interesting than what we have now. It's like you expect him to give moral guidance because every now and then he says something wise, but that's all he's there for.
Well, that's a part of the problem, again, because it's like, if Gwen is friendly with Ben, then, like, why did they need a third character?
They shouldn't have. I feel like the reboot would have benefited from what they're trying to do since it's much more smaller scaled and more humoristic. I think it should have taken place in Bellwood and not be a road trip. I feel like they did that because they wanted the premise to be the same as the classic, to feel familiar.
Yep.
But if it was like Ben and Gwen in the city of Bellwood, and you can treat it like Metropolis or where Spider-Man's in New York, I forgot what his specific town is, unless he doesn't have one. But there's always like Queens. Where there's always like smaller scale, like threatening villains, and Ben deals with them, and then maybe Vilgax shows up, and it's the first like real threat he has.
Yeah, I mean that would be really cool. How did Vilgax find Ben in the 11th Alien? Just throwing that out there. They're traveling.
I mean, you could always just say he found him through the Omnitrix. That's always what the show does. It's like, oh, I tracked you through that.
God, the Omnitrix is such like a.
It's the biggest ex machina I've ever seen. It communicates, it transforms, it heals, it revives, it teleports, it does everything. But it also breaks a ton.
DNA of millions of beings.
That's why they do mistransformations and breaks it. And it's just like, if you're gonna make it super powerful, but just break it, then just don't make it super powerful. So it's not frustrating.
Yeah.
Can we just rename the film term MacGuffin to Omnitrix?
Yeah.
The Omniguffin.
Coming in the next Ben 10 reboot.
All right. Which episode did you guys like more? Taking away like the context of the series, because the two-parter in the reboot is definitely different from it seemed to be in tone with Omnitrix, definitely different in tone from like the smattering of season 1 episodes that I watched, where like it was almost like Looney Tunes-esque at parts. I think I saw one where Accelerate was basically the Roadrunner with a flea bad guy. I don't know, a roach. Taking aside like the series and stuff like that, but just as episodes, pick one.
I want to say the 11th Alien, because I feel like if I was watching it without any context, that one is more enjoyable because it's more lively. It's more, the Shock Rock's more interesting to look at, and it's just the fast pacing is kind of at an advantage too, because it moves so fast. It holds your grasp because you're like, whoa, all this stuff is happening. Whereas the Big Tick, it's a very solid episode. I enjoy it. I love what it does for the classic continuity, but on its own, I wouldn't like go out of my way to watch it. If I'm like in the mood for Ben 10, I'm like, I'll watch the Big Tick. It's not that interesting.
Monsters?
Now, this is interesting because perhaps the Big Tick is among the weakest of the originals episodes, and the 11th Alien is among the best of the reboots episodes. Honestly, I wasn't impressed by either of them. But if I had to pick one, I'd say the Big Tick, because I feel that when I compare my criticisms of both, I feel like the ones that I have of the original are more nitpicks than anything else. And I generally enjoyed myself watching that one more than I did with the 11th Alien.
What would you say your biggest complaints with the 11th Alien is?
Maybe, and again, for the millionth time, this is my first complete episode of the reboot, so maybe it's just me not being used to the new characterizations and the new art style, and I didn't find the villains to be intimidating. I thought that Ben was overreacting. Of course he's a kid. Of course that's what kids do. I just wasn't as invested in the story, and I don't think that the Big Tick had a great story either per se, but I did find the Tick premise to be interesting.
Yeah. The 11th Alien, I enjoyed it. If I enjoyed Omnitricked to an extent, though that's not what we're talking about, but just in general, I feel like I've gotten more enjoyment out of like these episodes of the Ben 10 reboot than I have with most reboots, certainly from Cartoon Network at least. But I like the Big Tick better. Like I think I'd rather the atmosphere, I'd rather the art, I'd rather just the weirdness of this giant alien tick and how Ben tears it apart from the inside. How he features so many of his different aliens. I didn't find her funny, but I like Gwen's characterization more. I found her more interesting, more engaged with the plot instead of just being support character. Grandpa, too, of course, he does nothing in the 11th Alien, but he actually does. He reflects the beams that the aliens shoot at him. Yeah, I don't know. I like the atmosphere. It is like technically slower, but it held my attention a lot more. And maybe it is just my bias towards the original. I don't think the 11th Alien is a bad episode, but I do find that the breakneck pace, the stupidness of like the weatherheads, like they were like anti-humor to me. I think they're just supposed to be bumbling idiot robots or something. I don't know. They didn't do anything for me. And how rash Ben was a little annoying, but I don't think it's by a gulf. I think honestly, it really is like, as episodes, they're probably very close, and it probably is just my biases towards the original that push it slightly over the edge.
Right. It is neck and neck for me.
I'm glad we disagreed though. This is good. This is a first on the podcast.
It's interesting how I guess I'm considered like the more hardcore Ben 10 fan, and I chose the reboot episode over the classic. And you guys did the opposite.
Well, you're the most used. You're the most used to all the changes. You're also the most used to there being frequent changes in this franchise.
That's true. Being a Ben 10 fan pretty much made me like immune to being attached to like hardcore changes between shows.
But yeah, I will totally admit Shock Rock is the much better alien, much cooler.
Oh yeah.
So before we wrap up this segment, I wanted to just bring in some of the viewer comments that we got in our Discord server. So we got from ASK Airlast. Also, he says, also the Big Tick is a very creative episode that brings out the original show's heart and demeanor. The animation is shown in here, and all the characters do something. That's true. Ben figuring out Cannonbolt's powers are hilarious, and the new secondary characters are awesome. That is true, to be fair. Also, it's hard to put back in the perspective that I was when I was younger. Just that, like, I know Cannonbolt's powers.
Right.
I think everyone knows Cannonbolt's powers now, but to put yourself back in the perspective of when that episode was new, it's not obvious what he does.
Yeah.
That's very true.
So that even if it was obvious that Cannonbolt was going to be used to save the day, it's not clear until the end of the episode what he can really do, and so there is that element. So thank you for that comment. From another comment from Guts Masterson. The biggest difference between the episodes is how the original was, wow, I can access more than 10 aliens, but I don't know how to use my new alien to fight the threat, while the reboot is more about Ben's struggle with a powerful new alien and the classic hero trope of doing more harm than good as a hero. It's difficult to pick the better between the two because the Big Tick was more standalone, while the 11th alien feels like part of a bigger narrative. So that is true.
Yeah, I agree.
And I will also say that, like, the context of the reboot, like, bringing up this idea that Ben as a hero needs to be, like, have these responsibilities and like how his actions might harm people, it does not fit with the comedic tone of the 11-minute reboot episodes at all.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say so?
Yeah,
Kuro?
it's like that's one of the things I love and I hate about the Vilgax episodes of the reboot is the show does feel so differently. When he's there, it's almost like the writers are writing a different show. But then it's like if you like enjoy that and then you go into the reboot expecting that to be the theme of the show, that's not what it is. So it's like implying a Ben that's you're not going to get.
Yeah, we talked about that last week when we talked about like the power of 4 and how it's just, yeah, it's if these are like ratings grabs or these are things to pull in people and it's like people enjoyed that, well, the rest of the show isn't like that. But from what it looks like, season 2 might be going in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
So fingers crossed that it does. But yeah, thank you guys. If you want to participate in the discussions, please join our Discord and leave comments, and we might read them out on air and talk about them. So to move on, Kuro, I did not prep you on this, but we do a little quiz at the end of our podcasts.
Oh, great.
Yes. So basically the idea is that I'm going to name descriptions right off of Wikipedia, or I think like Ben 10pedia or whatever it is. And you're going to tell me, Monsters is going to tell me first if he thinks it's from the reboot or from the original. Because you are a super smarty pants, Monsters is going to get 3 points for everything he gets correct.
Yeah.
You are going to get 1 point if it's a reboot or the original. You're going to get 1 point if you can name the title of the episode. And you're going to get a 3rd point if you can tell me the number, either season and episode number or number overall. And I will accept like UK airings or whatever weird thing for the reboot, because I know that's a weird thing.
I got you.
All right. So Monsters is going to answer first again because he's less likely to know, so he's not going to spoil it for you. Yes. All right. Monsters has won exactly none of these, even though he wasn't playing against anyone the first time. He still lost. 6 out of 11. All right. When Ben interferes with malicious magician Hex's quest for the earth-moving Titan gloves at a swap meet, he switches bodies with Gwen, forcing him to walk a mile in her shoes, and vice versa. Reboot or original?
I don't remember that one, so I'm going to say reboot.
Kuro.
It's reboot, season 1, Freaky Gwen Ben is the title. I'm guessing like episode 4 or 6.
Pick one.
4.
You are correct.
Boom.
With
Wow.
all 3 points.
Excellent.
Goodness. This might also be a cry for help for you. That's one
of the only reboot episodes I've ever seen, so.
I like the title Freaky Gwen Ben. It definitely sticks out. All right. Ben finds people making shows about his alien forms. Monsters.
Ben finds people making shows about his alien forms.
That's all it says.
Original.
Kuro?
Original series, season 3, Super Alien Hero Buddy Adventures. Episode 5.
You are incorrect. It is episode 7.
I didn't.
But you are
I didn't think it was
correct
that late
about
in
the other
season.
things.
Awesome.
Yep. All right, Monsters is winning 6-5.
Wow.
Wow.
This is the first time I've ever had somewhat of a lead at anything. I'm going to blow it. But continue
I mean,
on.
this is a very weighted quiz. Just throwing that out there. All right. Get ready for this one. 3 crooks steal the rust bucket.
3 crooks steal the rust bucket. I'm gonna say reboot.
Kuro.
Oh man, I think they have an episode of that in both series. Crap. I want to say for that description, it sounds like classic series season 4 episode Ben 4 Good Buddy.
Number?
Episode 4?
5. But you're correct about everything. You were still correct, Monsters. You said original.
Oh, I did.
I thought he said reboot, but
I thought I said reboot.
If he said...
He did say reboot. I'm sorry. It's getting late.
It's all good. Yeah, it's 1:15 a.m. where I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Kuro is 7. Monsters is 6.
See, I told you I'd blow it.
All right. Ben and Billy Billions clash in a duel for supremacy at the laser tag park. But when Billy inadvertently ignites a robot rebellion, their game escalates into a full-blown war.
What was his name? Billy what? Billy Billions?
Yes, obviously.
That sounds like something out of the reboot.
Girl?
It is a reboot episode, but Billy Billions was also in Omniverse too. He was a rehashed character. That's in season 1. I can't tell you the title or episode number, but I vaguely remember that episode. They have like face paint on and stuff.
All right. Well, you are correct about what you answered. So you get 1 point.
Excellent.
And Monsters is correct too, I think.
Yeah, I said reboot.
Do you want to know the name of this episode?
Sure.
It's the best one. Don't laze me, bro.
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah. I can't believe I forgot that one.
That's great. I love that.
Monsters is going to start cheating with this game ahead of time because now he knows I picked the ones with the weirdest titles. Sometimes for some of the picks. All right. The trio attend a wedding between a Tennyson and an alien.
Okay. That sounds like reboot.
Kuro.
Classic series, season 3, Big Fat Alien Wedding, episode 11.
You get 2 points for that. You said this episode number for the other one. It's episode 4 of season 4. 2 more questions. Ben, Gwen, and Max pay a visit to a peaceful coastal town where everyone is a squid.
Where everybody's a squid?
Sorry,
What?
no. It actually says where everywhere is squid.
Everywhere is squid?
Yes. I misread it. It says everywhere is squid.
You know, I'm just going to answer reboot. I feel like it's probably the original, but I'm just going to say reboot.
Kuro?
Honestly, I have no idea what episode that is, so it has to be the reboot.
Okay. So you're both correct.
Everywhere is squid.
Everywhere is squid. What is
Can someone make a t-shirt out of that? Everywhere is squid.
You want to know the name of this episode?
Yeah, I gotta watch this one.
I don't think you're ready. It's episode 12 from season 1. The Clocktopus.
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 Writing that down right now.
Where everywhere is squid. I hope that's not a typo. I hope literally all the locations. It's the Splatoon tie-in episode. Oh, goodness. All right, so Ben, Gwen, and Max go on a hike in search of a legendary forgetty. A Yeti that makes people forget they ever saw it.
Okay, I'm going to say reboot right off the bat because I feel like the forgetty is not something that they'd have in the original.
Girl?
It is the reboot. The episode's called The Forgetty. It's season 1. I don't know the episode number, so I believe...
Take a guess.
This sounds late in the game, so I want to say 16?
31.
31?
Oh,
I didn't even know they had that many episodes in season 1.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god.
So, you know what that means?
Monsters wins?
Correct. Monsters wins. Although I will say that Kuro did get every single reboot or original question correct. All right, well, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Kuro, for being here. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a
was.
great time. The trivia thing was great.
We will definitely be doing Ben 10 again. I have some ideas I want to run past you after the show.
Fantastic.
Monsters, thanks for being here and thanks for editing this.
of course.
Viewers, thank you. So, just to recap the recast, we've got a Discord server. We have a hashtag, the recast. The next week's episodes are going to be Slumber Party Panic from Bad to Worse. The week after that, it's going to be Camp Laszlo and Rocco episodes. So, yeah, thank you guys. PIEGUYRULZ, out.
See you later.
Keep it fizzy.